I'm super excited to meet another amazing empowered woman of Goa, somebody who has gone and won herself the BBC Global Youth Champion 2021 award. It's amazing to meet someone who is so fascinated and interested in what she does, as well as saving the environment and being so conscious about sustainability. Gabriela, I'm 100% thrilled to meet you. Thank you so much for being with us on this special series of Empowered Women of Goa. A big thank you to Slipdisc for making this series possible for us. To me, I feel that being a marine conservationist and also being somebody who is a businesswoman is such a balancing act, right? You need to conserve the environment, but then business is business. So how do you manage that balance?
That's a really good question. I think because I have a background in conservation, I'm constantly looking at how the business can be sustainable, how we can put in guidelines, how we can make sure that it's slow enough for us to be able to monitor how the business grows rather than just scaling really quickly and then ending up, doing more damage than good. So in many ways, our company is quite small. We've set up a very strict guideline for how we harvest our seaweed, and we're looking towards farming seaweed in the future because we feel like we'd really like to start putting more into the ocean rather than, harvesting seaweed out of it right now. And we're also building a high value market for seaweed because as a product, we currently sell it to chefs, we sell it to restaurants, and by doing that, we put a much higher value onto seaweed other than just having it, sold as biofertilizer, which then means it's not a very high value industry for coastal communities.
Perfect. It's very interesting to what you're doing because you're creating awareness about why it is so good if it's on your plate.
Yes.
I don't think we've really understood that too much in the past. And you're making it possible to actually bring it to the tables. I love the fact that you're taking it to chefs.
Yes.
I know that you've picked this out right from the tide pools here in Hawaii Beach, and it is fresh seaweed. It looks really beautiful as it is. But then to make it consumable, what is the process that happens?
So we have multiple processes, but ideally what it looks like is that we extract it, we clean it, we dry it, and then we essentially package it. And we also have various rigorous tests that we conduct to make sure that the seaweed is clean before it's sent for human consumption. And I think in doing that, we also significantly increase the value of the product. So from just a wild ocean ingredient to something that's a premium product for restaurants.
Tell me the nutritional value of it. Like what kind of vitamins, minerals, what else does it have?
Seaweed the world over is known to be highly nutritious. It's used in a range of cuisines, mainly for its nutrition. It's very high in iodine, iron, calcium, magnesium. Some seaweeds have B12. Very high in omega-3, DHAs, fatty acids. So all of the type of nutrition you'd normally have from fish liver oils, you can actually get from seaweed, and it's completely vegan. And it's also a really good antioxidant and a seaweed that's been consumed now for people that, just generally want a healthier lifestyle and also want it to be a vegan product. So it's a really good ingredient and it grows all along our coastline.
800 varieties in India and around 145 in Goa.
Yes.
This is the edible format of it.
Yes.
The edible species of it. I like the fact that you speak about how making it available for consumption can actually increase its value as a product versus it just being used for
biofertilizers or just gels, which is currently what seaweed is being used.
It's used a lot in the beauty industry as well.
Correct. Yeah. It's used as a very low value product in the beauty industry, but it can be made a very high value product.
How do you plan to, I know that the Good Ocean has been around for a bit, but your work in marine conservation started long before that. What is your long-term vision for the Good Ocean? Because it sounds like such a brilliant business idea to me. Tell me about that bit.
Yeah, I think right now we would love to work with coastal communities. We're currently setting up the market side of things to create high value markets, and now to connect those high value markets to communities is what we're working on. We would also really like to have more women from coastal communities working on processing seaweed and selling seaweed. And it's a very scalable business model because there's seaweed all along India's coast, and there are coastal communities that are really, like very good with business, and there are a lot of communities that can start seaweed businesses on their own.
For us, Goa is a big part of what we do on this show, and I know we all know that it's a hugely popular tourist destination. We're also worried about how does tourism activity negatively impact the coastal ecosystem. Tell us about your background and tell us about how you see it.
Yeah, I mean, for all purposes, tourism is fantastic for Goa. It's one of our largest industries. There does need to be some kind of safeguard. So one thing that I used to work on is looking at how tourism activities interact with coral reef ecosystems. So I used to work with the WWF, and we'd monitor sections of Goa's coral reefs and then look at how best to promote policies that were beneficial for both the reefs as well as for tourism. And in that sense, I actually feel like moving into new businesses like seaweed are quite beneficial because it interacts well with tourism. So a lot of people come to Goa for, this unique, beachside experiences. A lot of that has to do with food. A lot of people also come here for like wellness, to relax. And I feel like looking at health and nutrition in this way is a really good thing for Goa. And I think in that sense, we can actually look at more small businesses that promote wellness, health, nutrition, food, sustainability, and seaweed is definitely one of them.
So I'm curious, right? Is it something that's available only on fine dining plates at the moment, or can it actually at some stage reach everybody's plates?
Yeah, actually that's a great question, and also a problem that we're trying to solve in the business, because our main business is to make it a high value product so that eventually that it's valued higher for communities, but we'd also like to make it accessible. And the way we're trying to do that is actually to make a range of seaweed pickles, because everybody eats pickle. It's something that can be produced more like cheaper than having to make a high value seaweed product, and it also retains a lot of the nutrition that seaweed has, and that's a product that anyone from anywhere can eat. It's also purely vegetarian, and it has all of the nutrients that you really need, and that's a product that anyone could potentially pick off the shelves and consume, and it's not too expensive. Whereas we also have the premium high-end products that will only be sold to chefs.
It sounds all very exciting and interesting to us. We know so much about seaweed now and what you're doing with Good Ocean, but we want to know about Gabriela De Cruz as well. So when you are not being a marine conservationist or a businesswoman, what is Gabriela like?
I just really like swimming. I always wear my swimsuit. Literally everything I wear has a swimsuit underneath it.
Amazing.
And when I'm done with work, I just go for a swim. And I think I really like that about my work, is that I have time to spend doing what I want. And I spend a lot of time in the ocean, and that's also why I have set up this business, because it means that I'm always in the sea, and so I'm always watching it and looking how it's changing and seeing how it's getting polluted and wanting to shift that. And so for me, I think my work is very linked to who I am. And I would like it to continue that way. I would like to run it in a way where I can also have time for myself and always have time to go for a swim and take time out for myself. And so that's what I do. I swim a lot.
Gabriela, it's fascinating. I use that word all the time because that's what you are. Being a Goan, having grown up in the ocean, literally, understanding why it's so important to have a sustainable way of growing your business. And we all believe that you deserve accolades and recognition and appreciation for it. You have got the BBC Global Youth Champion Award. Tell us what it was like winning that.
Yeah, I think, again, when we talk about the business and sustainability, like I've got a plastic pack, and I pack my seaweed in here, so it doesn't really go. And I think that's another thing we're realizing, is that when you start a business, you have to start with something and then you transition into sustainable options. And so while we use a lot of plastic now to package, we would really like to transition to biodegradable plastics at some point. And sort of while we're wild harvesting seaweed right now, we'd like to transition into farming. And that's what I won the award for, was to set up a small seaweed farm and sort of prototype it and then see if we can scale that. And while the farm was functional, there were a lot of issues with a disease outbreak, a cyclone, property rights issues along the coast. And so what we did was start a farm model and then realize that we actually need more funding to really set it up in a way that's scalable. And we only farm native seaweed. locally sourced seaweed, and that's another thing that we're introducing, because a lot of India farms an invasive species from the Philippines, but in Goa, for our business, we would really like to farm only local species.
Nice.
And we have 145 species, so odds are we will find something to farm.
Super. Sounds like a plan. Sounds like something sustainable. Sounds like something long term.
Yeah.
Sounds like something very Goan. When you know that you need to conserve your environment while you're raising your business.
Yeah.
I'd love to know about what or who is part of the support ecosystem now, and what are the challenges?
Yeah,
If any.
that's a really good question. I think if this business is going to scale, it needs a lot of other businesses to also step up. I think right now it would be amazing to look at what the Goa Fisheries Department is doing. I know that the central government has allocated a lot of funds for seaweed, so it'd be great, to know more about what the government is planning on doing for seaweed in Goa.
Yeah.
Whether it's in terms of like the policy that they're developing, or even if it's in terms of businesses. And I think also in terms of communities, there's a lot of work to be done with communities. At the end of the day, all seaweed forests border coastal communities because it's always close to shore. So working closely with communities is really important. Government, communities, and innovation. The innovation side will be from businesses like mine, other businesses that would like to innovate around seaweed. And I think if all of these components work together, we could have a really thriving seaweed industry in Goa.
In Goa.
For sure.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, because Goa does need it. Goa needs to look at balancing the tourism and the amazing ecosystem that we have, and actually raising a great business out of it.
Yeah, and I think Goa has young, enterprising people. It's very highly literate. We've got a range of skill sets. So if anything, Goa can be a hub for pretty much any small business. But because it's coastal, it really makes sense to work with more products from the sea. So I hope more people get into the seaweed business space, and I'm looking forward to having more conversations around it for sure. Yeah.
Like you said, it's so highly nutritional. It's available here in Goa.
Yeah.
It is something that's going to help not only the ecosystem, the marine ecosystem, but also the communities that live around it and thrive on it.
Yeah.
Would it help if a lot more local chefs who attract the right audience to Goa and who want to present something unique and nutritional to their audience, would seaweed be a good option, and why? Tell me why.
For sure. I think either way, Goa celebrates its coastal diversity really well with our cuisine. We have a range of seafood that people come to Goa to consume. And I think adding seaweed to the menu makes so much sense. You have everything from like crabs to like squids to, like tornak on the menu.
Yeah.
Why don't we have seaweed? So I think there's a huge gap, and I think working with chefs would be something very exciting to do.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, it's quite a historical thing to put seaweed on the menu in Goa. It's never been done before, and I think chefs that work with it now will actually be setting a precedent for other chefs in the future. And who knows, you could name a seaweed dish after yourself maybe, because there's nothing out there.
Of course, this Empowered Women series is about the women of Goa.
Yeah.
And I would love to know this from you. You are a woman of Goa. What has it been like, first of all, being born and brought up in Goa?
Yeah.
And then what does it mean to you being a woman? I know it's a difficult question, but well, you need to find a way to answer it for us.
So I think I would first like to state my privilege. If you come from a certain section of society, things are obviously easier. But I feel like in terms of being a woman in Goa, I have always felt supported, safe. I've felt that it's a great state to start something new. There's a lot of confluence from people from all over the world. There's a lot of new ideas coming in. And so in that sense, there are a lot of, other women in Goa to look up to in terms of the work that they do. And I think in many ways, there's so much potential for us to do better for women in Goa, specifically when it comes to business. And I would really like to see, more platforms where women can start small businesses, and also to support women that are already running their own businesses. to, you know, just grow in many ways.
It's been fun watching you pick this up from
Yeah,
the,
now you just have to eat it. So
Yeah.
hopefully I will send you some seaweed to eat. Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to keep this. It's been fun meeting Gabriela. You must watch every second of this interview because it is so going. It is so inspirational. It is so, she is so empowering with what she's been doing. And it's been wonderful to have her. Thank you so much. Hey, cheers.